When was the last time you were truly alone? Not physically alone, but actually alone, with no notifications, no messages, no one just a tap away. Think about it. You probably can't remember. Right now, billions of people are more connected to each other than at any other point in human history. And yet, somehow, loneliness is at an all-time high. That's not a coincidence. That's a clue. Because something wild is happening to human relationships, and most of us are living right in the middle of it without even realizing it. So today, let's slow down and actually look at what technology is doing to the way we love, bond, fight, and connect. Some of it will surprise you. Some of it might make you a little uncomfortable. And one part, you almost definitely have wrong. Let's get into it. Here's why this matters more than you think. Humans are not solo creatures. We never were. Our friendships, our families, our romantic relationships, they're not just nice to have. They are literally tied to how long we live, how healthy we stay, and how happy we feel. Studies show that loneliness is as bad for your body as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So when technology starts reshaping how we form and maintain those connections, that's not just a lifestyle change. That's a public health issue. And the shift is massive. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General officially declared loneliness an epidemic. So what's going on? How did the most connected generation in history end up the loneliest? To understand that, we need to go back. Way back. For almost all of human history, your social world was tiny. Imagine you're living in a small village, maybe 200 or 300 people. You know everyone. You grew up with them. You eat with them, work with them, argue with them, celebrate with them. Your relationships were deep because they had to be. These were the only people you had. Then cities happened. Then phones. Then the internet. And suddenly, your potential social world exploded from a few hundred people to literally billions. That sounds incredible, right? More options, more connections, more everything. But here's where it gets interesting. Our brains didn't evolve for that. There's this concept called Dunbar's number, developed by anthropologist Robin Dunbar. His research suggests that the human brain can only maintain about 150 meaningful relationships at a time. That's your cognitive limit. It doesn't matter if you have 5,000 Instagram followers. Your brain is still wired for the village. So when technology hands us this massive social buffet, dating apps with millions of profiles, group chats with hundreds of people, social feeds with thousands of posts, we don't know what to do with it. We scroll. We browse, we swipe, and we end up feeling strangely empty, even though we've been social all day. That's the first big shift technology made. It scaled up the quantity of our connections while quietly draining the quality. But it goes deeper than that. Think about how you communicate with the people you care about. 100 years ago, if you wanted to tell your best friend something important, you either showed up at their door or wrote them a long letter. Both of those required effort. Real, deliberate effort. And that effort sent a message before you even said a word. This person matters to me. Today, you shoot them a meme and a LOL. To be fair, is genuinely funny sometimes. But it's also a totally different kind of connect. Psychologists call this parasocial compression, when we substitute low-effort digital signals for the high-effort in-person interactions that actually build trust and closeness. Every like, every reaction, every seen message is a tiny hit of social recognition. It feels like connection, but it's more like the empty calories of connection. It satisfies the craving without giving you the nutrition. And here's the sneaky part. Because digital interaction is so easy, it actually makes us less likely to do the hard stuff. Why drive across town to hang out with someone when you can just stay home and text? Why have an awkward but honest conversation when you can send a carefully worded message that you've edited 6 times? Technology gave us shortcuts, and we took them. And slowly, without meaning to, many of us got out of shape, socially speaking. Now here's something that might surprise you about romantic relationships specifically. Most people assume dating apps are making relationships worse, more superficial, more disposable, more swipey. And there is real evidence that constant choice makes commitment harder. Psychologists call it the paradox of choice. When you have too many options, you value each one less. If there are always 10 more people a swipe away, it's easier to walk away from the one in front of you. But here's the twist. Research also shows that couples who meet online actually have slightly higher relationship satisfaction on average than couples who meet offline. But still, not what most people expect. Why? Because dating apps, for all their flaws, force you to be explicit about what you want. You write it in your bio. You filter by it. You match based on it. That's a level of intentionality that doesn't always happen when you just meet someone at a party. So technology isn't simply making romance worse. It's making it different. And different doesn't always mean worse. It just means we need new skills. Every major communication technology in history, the printing press, the telephone, email, changed how people related to each other. And every time, people panicked. And every time, humans adapted. We're in that adaptation phase right now. The question isn't whether technology will change our relationships. It already has. The question is whether we'll be intentional about how. And that's where the practical stuff comes in. Here's what the research actually says works. First, treat your relationships like plants, not furniture. Furniture just sits there. Plants need attention, or they die. The people who feel least lonely aren't the ones who are most connected online. They're the ones who invest in a small number of deep, consistent real-world relationships. Dunbar's number again. Quality over quantity always. Second, notice when you're using your phone to avoid connection, not create it. There's a difference between texting a friend to make plans and scrolling through their Instagram instead of actually talking to them. One moves the relationship forward. One just makes you feel like you did. Third, show up in person when you could just text. Call instead of message. Have the uncomfortable conversation instead of ghosting. These things feel harder, but they're exactly what builds the kind of trust that makes a relationship last. And finally, give yourself some actual silence. Not to be productive, not to optimize anything, just to exist without input for a few minutes a day. Because you can't be fully present with someone else if you've never learned to be fully present with yourself. So here's where we land. Technology didn't break human connection, but it did change the conditions for it. It made connection easier to fake and harder to feel. We traded depth for breadth, presence for availability, intimacy for impressions. And a lot of us did it without even making a choice. It just kind of happened, one notification at a time. But here's the thing about humans. We're adaptable. We always have been. We figured out how to write letters, then phones, then email. We'll figure out this too, but only if we're paying attention. So the next time you reach for your phone, pause for just 1 second and ask yourself, am I using this to connect or to avoid connecting? That one question, asked honestly, might be the most important thing you do for your relationships today. Because at the end of your life, you won't remember how many followers you had. You'll remember who was actually there.